The trial of Daniel Hayes, when the judge said guilty, the entire courtroom froze. Not because of the verdict, but because of the smile on the lawyer's face. No one smiled in this courtroom. Not after what had happened, but Ethan Cole, the young defense lawyer, did. A quiet, knowing smile. As if he had just witnessed something no one else could see. The victim's mother gasped. The cameras clicked, and the accused, Daniel Hayes, just stared at the floor, shaking his head in disbelief. The crime? The murder of his wife, Claire, a woman everyone described as kind, soft-spoken, and loyal. The courtroom smelled of paper, coffee, and fear. The wooden benches were filled with reporters, curious citizens, and the cold stares of strangers. At the front, the judge adjusted his glasses. His eyes were tired. This trial had dragged on for 7 months. Outside, the media called it the perfect marriage murder. Inside, it was anything but perfect. The prosecution painted Daniel as a manipulative husband, controlling. Jealous, violent, they showed texts, arguments, and a threatening voicemail he once sent at midnight. The defense argued it was all a setup, that Daniel was innocent, that someone else wanted Claire dead. Daniel Hayes, 35, an architect known for his calm demeanor. Ethan Cole, 29, one of the youngest defense lawyers in the state, known for his unconventional methods and leading the prosecution, Margaret Vance, a fierce woman in her 50s, respected, feared, and known for never losing a murder case. That morning, Ethan's hands trembled as he looked at his notes. He wasn't nervous because of the case. He was nervous because of what he'd just discovered last night, and something he wasn't sure the world was ready to hear. The cross-examination. The witness took the stand. Officer Glenn. The first cop on the crime scene. Officer Glenn, Ethan said softly, walking closer. You mentioned you arrived at the Hayes' residence at 10:48 p.m.? Yes. And you found Mrs. Hayes on the kitchen floor? Yes. Any signs of struggle? None. But we found fingerprints. Mr. Hayes' fingerprints. On the knife. The audience murmured. Ethan paused. Did you find anyone else's fingerprints? The officer hesitated. Well, partial prints. But the lab couldn't match them. Ethan turned to the judge. Your Honor, may I request the lab report to be shown again? The judge nodded. The screen flickered. The lab report appeared. Smudged prints beside Daniel's clear ones. Ethan pointed. Those partial prints. Are you certain they belong to no one? They didn't match anyone in the system, the officer said. Ethan nodded slowly. He knew exactly whose prints those were, but proving it would destroy someone powerful. As Ethan continued, the courtroom felt heavier with every word. Every eye followed his movements. The jury whispered among themselves. Mr. Hayes, Ethan said, turning toward his client, did your wife ever mention receiving threats? Daniel lifted his head for the first time. His voice cracked. Yes, from someone she once trusted. Who? Daniel looked down. I can't say. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge hammered his gavel. Order. Ethan stepped closer. You can say, Daniel, because truth is the only thing that can save you now. Daniel looked up, his eyes red, broken. Then he said something that made every reporter in the room lean forward. She said, she was scared of you, Mr. Cole. Gasps filled the room. Even the judge's eyes widened. The defense lawyer, accused by his own client? Ethan froze. He didn't deny it. He didn't even flinch. He just closed his eyes, as if waiting for this moment all along. Margaret Vance stood, her voice cutting through the silence. Your Honor, I think we've heard enough. This defense is clearly compromised. The judge nodded slowly. Mr. Cole, do you wish to respond? Ethan opened his briefcase. Inside was a small envelope. Unmarked, sealed, and slightly torn at the corner. He placed it on the desk. Before this trial began, Ethan said softly, someone sent me this. No return address, no name. Just a USB drive inside. The audience leaned forward. I thought it was another threat, until I saw what was on it. He took a deep breath. Your Honor, with your permission, I'd like to submit this as new evidence. The screen lit up. The courtroom went silent. It was a video, security footage from Claire's home. Timestamp, the night she died. In the footage, Claire was alive, arguing with someone off-screen. Her voice trembled. You said it was just one payment. I can't do this anymore. Then a man's voice, deep, familiar, replied, If you open your mouth, we both go down. The camera turned slightly, enough to show half his face. It wasn't Daniel, it wasn't Ethan, it was someone else entirely. Gasps echoed. Reporters whispered frantically. The judge stared at the screen, frozen. Ethan's voice broke the silence. That, he said quietly, is the real reason I took this case." Margaret Vance's face turned pale, because the man in the footage, the one arguing with Claire, was her own son. The secret that changed everything, see. Courtroom exploded into chaos. Journalists rushed out to call their editors. Margaret Vance, the legendary prosecutor, stood still, her eyes wide, her lips trembling. The judge called for order again and again, but it was too late. The secret was out. Ethan didn't look triumphant. He looked broken. He had known this all along. The USB was sent by Claire, just 3 days before her death. She had discovered that her friend, Margaret's son, Ryan Vance, was laundering money through her charity organization. When she confronted him, things spiraled. That night, she was silenced forever. Margaret's voice shook. You fabricated this." Ethan shook his head slowly. "The truth doesn't need fabrication, ma'am. It only needs courage to be shown." He handed over a second document, a digital signature report. Ryan's fingerprints matched the partial prints found on the knife. The courtroom went silent again. Even the judge seemed. Speechless cross-examination of Ryan Vance. The doors opened. 2 officers escorted a young man into the courtroom. Ryan Vance, pale and terrified. "Mr. Vance," Ethan began, "you were with Claire Hayes on the night she died." Ryan stammered, I went there to talk." "About what?" "She found out about the charity accounts. I just wanted her to delete the files." "And when she refused?" Ethan asked quietly. Ryan's eyes filled with tears. "I pushed her. She fell. I panicked." Gasps. Margaret closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Her career, her pride, everything she stood for, collapsing right in front of her. Emotional twist. The judge looked shattered. "Mr. Hayes," he said softly, turning to Daniel, "you are hereby acquitted of all charges." Daniel's knees buckled. He couldn't stand. He looked at Ethan, whispering, Why would you defend me, knowing she feared you?" Ethan's eyes glistened. "Because she didn't fear me," he said quietly. "She feared what I might uncover." He placed his hand over the envelope again. "Claire came to me weeks before her death. She told me she was being blackmailed. I promised I'd protect her secret, until I realized the only way to honor her was to reveal it." Margaret stood, trembling. "You could have told me privately." Ethan looked at her, his voice low but firm. "I tried. You refused to meet me. You said your family was untouchable." Tears ran down her face as Ryan whispered, "Mom, I'm sorry." The judge banged his gavel. "Court will recess. Officer, take the witness into custody." As the courtroom emptied, Ethan stayed behind, staring at the empty witness stand. The truth had set one man free and destroyed another family. Daniel walked up to him. "You saved my life." "But at what cost?" Ethan smiled weakly. "Justice isn't always fair, Daniel. Sometimes it's just necessary." The lights dimmed. The reporters outside shouted questions. Margaret walked out, head bowed, her career in ruins. And Ethan stepped into the rain, whispering to himself, "The truth always finds its way, even if it destroys everything along the way." A faint rumble of thunder echoed, like the gavel of fate. As he walked away, a black car pulled up beside him. The window rolled down. A voice said, "Mr. Cole, we need to talk about another case." "One that involves you?" Ethan stopped, staring at the car. The screen faded to black. "Justice doesn't always heal. Sometimes it breaks what's left, but truth